What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all having a great day. And if you're new to the channel too and want to hit the subscribe button, that'd be awesome. In this video, we are going to be installing / relocating the battery in my R32 Nissan Skyline. I do not intend for this video to be a DIY, but go ahead and take it with a grain of salt. So if you want to skip the updates on the Skyline and want to jump right into the install, timestamp down below. In the last video, you would have saw that we picked up the R32 Nissan Skyline from fabrication at GSK Fab. Devin did an amazing job with all the fabrication work, intercooler, intake piping, built us a beautiful downpipe as well, made us some awesome brackets for our oil cooler, and as you can tell, we spared no expense with the setup, full vibrant HD clamps all around. We did go external wastegate as well, so I cannot wait to hear this thing sing under load. And we got our Turbo Smart blow-up valve installed as well. On my spare time, I've been plucking away at the motor. This is also continuing another video, but I went ahead and installed my ATP oil catch can. Made the nice 10AN steel braided lines as well. I have our Haltech boost control solenoid installed and plumbed. I just went with silicone hoses. I just felt it was best. Was gonna go with some push fittings, but people told me they don't really handle high boost well. So we got that plumbed from the solenoid to the turbo, teed off into the wastegate. A couple weeks ago, I ordered some silicone hoses from Z1 Motorsports, trimmed them up and installed them. Upper's looking good. I still just need to do a little bit of work on the lower rat hose. Finished them up some more air plumbing for the fuel system. In the next video, we will be finalizing the fuel system, doing a full AN line. I already ripped everything out, as well as finalizing the cooling system. Just waiting on my Chase Bay's coolant reservoir. And everything else, again, is currently on order and should be arriving within the next 3 days. But the motor is looking incredible. Super stoked how much work has gone into this thing, and the end product just looks amazing. And also too, the other day, my brother and I went ahead and bled the clutch system. So now we have a working clutch pedal, and this thing feels amazing too. It's not super stiff, but it's stiffer than OEM. And again, we are running our OS Geiken twin disc. And at this point, after today's install and the future oil and fueling install, all we are currently waiting on is the second rendition of our Wiring Specialties wiring harness. And time for today's install. I purchased all these products on Amazon. Of course, the last place I went to purchase any of my car parts, but for the battery, this should all suffice, and all of these got great ratings. And I always run Optima yellow or red top batteries. I was contemplating running a zero gravity battery, but couldn't justify wanting to run the $900 battery to my liking. But from left to right, we have some 4-gauge power wire. We have our OptiFuse 200 amp breaker, Moroso pass-through, which we'll be using this on the firewall. Got some marine terminal ends, cable terminals. We're going to be tapping into this aluminum bracket here so we can mount our breaker like so, or more like so. And then we got our cable crimpers, cable cutter, and another cable cutter. And I will put the link in the bio to all these products from Amazon. Step one is going to be solidifying where we are going to be placing our battery. The R32 Nissan Skyline trunk is a little wonky. There's like 3 areas we can put it. We can put it down below here, at an angle there, or in this corner here. I would prefer it being in this corner here, that way the weight is distributed somewhat evenly, except for there's not a whole lot of width that I need. And I was thinking of riv nutting the battery tray in with some screws to get a nice firm fit. But I would like it here too as well. It'd be much cleaner, but I'm trying to stay away from the fuel tank as possible. So once we figure out that, we'll go ahead and wire up our terminals. plan is to, of course, run a power wire all the way through inside the car. For grounding, we'll go ahead and use one of the bolts to the shock tower. Then we'll run our power line all the way through underneath the carpet of the Skyline up into the firewall. And here, where the stock throttle cable used to come out of, I was thinking of hole sawing this big enough for the Moroso pass-through terminal, so then we can get that nice and cleaned up, paint that so it doesn't rust. We'll go ahead and put some terminals down below here, and first to our starter there, and then from the starter we'll go ahead and bridge that to our alternator, and then find the necessary grounds. So in hindsight, the concept is pretty easy and pretty straightforward. I think just mounting the battery in a good location is going to be our biggest challenge. All right, and here's the final product. Pilot hold tapped with an M6 by 3/4. Of course, that's going to vary depending on what size screw or bolts you have. I just used whatever was available to me on some nice clean Allens. Step one done, or step half of one done. All right, breaker and bracket on the assembly. Looks good. Nice and sturdy. So now we're going to go ahead and make a terminal that connects to the battery to the breaker. Of course, I'm not going to connect it because then this whole battery becomes live. So I already made one end for practice. It was pretty straightforward, and this looks very professional. And the terminals I'm using utilize a wing nut, so essentially it's just popping this in with the accommodating washers and screwing it down. But starting from scratch, go ahead and cut the appropriate length wire, and then what we're going to do now is take off X amount of plastic bit. And we got some nice exposed copper wire. I'm going to go ahead and grab one of our copper terminal ends. Then we'll go ahead and get our battery cable crimper. We're going to set this to 4 gauge since we're using a 4 gauge wire. That's going to vary again depending on the gauge wire you use. And this does take 2 hands, so I'll show you the end result. All right, can we see okay? My brother's currently busy, so I'm going to try to manhandle this. And just like that, now we'll go ahead and grab on a heat sleeve, use our heat gun, and get this shrunk. Heat shrunk, and again looking very professional. Just got done finalizing the battery. Positive side, came out pretty good. I honestly don't hate this setup, but it's definitely going to serve its purpose. Negative side, looking good as well. We will be grounding the battery, of course, to the rear shock tower. So far so good on the battery. And now for our trunk situation, I'm just going to go ahead and run to Home Depot, pick myself up a nice thick piece of plywood and a couple sheets of aluminum. We'll go ahead and trace out the trunk mat on the plywood, cut it accordingly, and then for our fuel door here, I'll go ahead and cut a nice section out so we have easy access. And then with the aluminum sheets of metal, I'll go ahead and self-tap that to the decided location where we're going to mount the battery, so we can drill into those and mount our rib nuts. Also came to the conclusion that I really don't want to go ahead and drill into my firewall, so what I'm going to do is utilize the stock wiring harness hole, which feeds in this little pocket here underneath the wheel well into the firewall there, through the kick panel, and then I went ahead and took off the door sill, and then we can route our power wire nicely throughout the inside of the chassis. Just need to figure out how to maneuver, take out the rear seats, and then we can go ahead and plug right up to the battery. And all that's left is making additional grounds to the alternator, to the motor mount bracket, transmission to the chassis, and then making our power source to the fuse box, and this install will be completed. All right, so I got the power wire successfully ran all the way to the trunk again, to this OEM slot there, through the firewall, underneath the kick paddle, underneath all the carpet. I went ahead and took off this B pillar. Yeah, this will be, no, the C pillar. Took off the C pillar garnish, tucked all the wires underneath the lever here. Underneath my harness bar, underneath more carpet, through the perimeter of the inside of the door, and then out of this OEM hole here. And if you are doing this on a sedan, specifically the best way to get the rear seats out are these two clips here. You just want to pry those off with a screwdriver or a 1-inch wrench, and then for the back seat, just go ahead and pry up with these 3 hooks here. So this is where I'm going to call it a night. Then tomorrow morning we'll go ahead and run Home Depot, grab our thick plywood, and then finish up the rest. Alright, just about done with our battery relocation setup. Looks pretty good if I do say so myself. Nice and clean, nothing extraordinary, but definitely will do the job. So like I mentioned in the last clip, I did actually find some 18mm wood at home. It covers about 3/4 of the trunk, but I went ahead and traced out the trunk mat to the wood, cut it out accordingly, made sure everything was snug and secure. Then I went ahead and drilled in some pilot holes for the aluminum bracket for the battery into the wood, installed 4 threaded M8 riv nuts, then went to the hardware store, got 4 extra long bolts to accommodate for the bracket and the wood, with some locking washers and nuts at the end for added stability. Like, this thing definitely isn't going anywhere. And then I just got done mounting up the rear strut bar, making sure everything's nice and clean and routed. Got the power wire made and installed. Very professional, if I do say so myself again. Nothing obstructs. Went ahead and grounded the battery to the rear strut here. I went ahead and scored with a Scotch-Brite on the bottom there, so this should be a good ground. But all we have left, honestly, which I will do on my own time, is to install this 5-post ground I got from R32 Specialties. And again, pretty straightforward how to do this, just somewhat time consuming. All right, everybody, and on that note, that is all I have for you in this video. If you have any questions regarding this install, be sure to reach out on the comments below, or via Instagram is the best place to reach me. My first time doing this, so if I miss anything, be sure to reach out as well. And like I mentioned in the previous clip, I will finalize the remaining grounds and running a power wire to the fuse box with the ground on my own time, which will probably be tomorrow. But install went very clean, followed the OEM wiring routing for an even cleaner install. Nothing obstructs, nothing is touching metal, so I think we are good to go. With that being said, all we need to do is finalize the fuel system. The remaining fuel parts that I have should be coming in within the next 2 days, so that'll be the next video. And then I do have my coolant reservoir coming within 5 days, so we can finalize the cooling system. And from that point on, just triple check all my work, do a nice bolt check on the suspension, wait for my wiring harness to come in. Once that's in, hook everything up cleanly. Once that's done, we take the Skyline back up to Albert's shop in Phoenix to triple check all my work, make sure everything suffices. We will then fill the car with fluids, do the first startup, and after that, it's dyno time and we can finally wash our hands with this project. A huge learning curve, a lot of experience doing the RB25 Neo swap, and I am very grateful for all of your guys' support. So before I ramble on even more, thank you everybody so much for the continued love and support. And if you're new to the channel too, and want to hit the subscribe button, that'd be awesome. And remember, aim high, drive low. We'll catch you next video. Take care.